Crews with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
We'll jump off with this since I mentioned it earlier. Terry Crews did a little battle with CNN host Don Lemon Monday night over the Black Lives Matter movement. And, you know, he's I would love to use any other phrase, but come under fire for a series of tweets warning that Black Lives Matter doesn't morph into Black Lives Better. A lot of people have pushed back against that. During the interview, the two went back and forth over what Black Lives Matter means, what the movement means, what should be important to us. So the interview lasts around 10 minutes. I cut 90 seconds, and you'll see the two sort of struggle to find common ground as to who falls under what umbrella, and Don is just not having what Terry's saying.
This is the thing, Don. You know, Black people need to hold other Black people accountable. I said this the same thing. This is the Black America's version of the Me Too movement. If anything is going to change, we ourselves need to look at our own communities and look at each other and say, this thing cannot go down. And this is the thing, too. There are a lot of great, great people there who are held hostage by people who literally are running these neighborhoods with violence and then claiming that Black Lives Matter. When you look at the parents of these little kids who are saying, hey, man, why aren't they speaking up for me, too? And this is what I'm saying. When I look at this whole thing about, you know, it's about who is controlling the narrative. It's got to be all Black Lives Matter. And what's happened is that because I even challenged it, because I even questioned and warned people,
Terry,
I became like if I told you to wear a mask,
Terry,
they want to kick you out.
You're a high-profile person. You're writing things out there. You know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to respond to what you're saying on Twitter. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I have a skin as tough as an armadillo because of what I do, and I think maybe you should adapt that. But here's what I have to say. The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, Black communities, then start that movement.
Interesting. Don Lemon famously, Max Pat, I'll put you on the spot, but God, a number of years ago, maybe like 2013 or something like that, did a whole like Black people get your shit together, started his program with like Black folk get it together speech. I remember it from the time, and it was a number of years ago, but he did not that pertains exactly to this conversation, but there is one that you'd be kind of surprised of him. I don't know what it was called, but anyway, you can look for it. Yeah, see, didn't
that seem like a little bit of a nutty answer of, well, if you want all Black lives to matter, you should start that movement. Like, what?
Well, there's kind of a catch-22, which is Black Lives Matter is there to address police brutality toward Black people.
Yes.
Couple of things, though, I would argue. If you go to their webpage or go to anyone's webpage and you have some stuff on Palestinians in Israel and how that should be addressed, and then the Black family unit and how the nuclear family needs to be replaced by, well, that's not about cops. And that's not about cops brutalizing Black. What does Israel and Palestine have to do with cops? So if you go, hey, it's just about this movement, then I think we can all respect that. But if you open yourself up to Israel and Palestine and family units, well, now you're kind of saying we've expanded, we've diversified, and anyone who's then observing the movement can then everything lands somewhere, inner city cops brutalizing Black people and whatever policies going on in Israel as it pertains to Palestine, everything lands in between those two agendas, right? I mean, and they're also a problem, too, because you name you didn't name the group Brutal Cops Gotta Stops. Ooh, write that down. Brutal Cops Gotta Stops. You know how Jewish guys, wrote a lot of Christmas songs? Mm-hmm. Why can't white guys come up with chants for people on the street, about cops, for black folk,
Absolutely. Sure.
Brutal cops, gots to stops. Let's see, we pluralize gots? Got to stops? Okay, point is this. If you've called it Black Lives Matter, and sadly and unfortunately, a whole bunch of black lives were taken in a short period of time on the streets of Chicago and New York and many other, Baltimore and St. Louis and many other places. So when the title is Black Lives Matter and there's a bunch of 2-year-old and 10-year-old and 12-year-old black people that have been gunned down in the streets, then unfortunately that's going to bleed into your title.
Right.
And that's what's going on as well.
I'm on the blacklivesmatter.com website. I wonder if it was Whitlock, right? He was talking about the Palestinian part and the whatever part. It's either been struck. I've read this now a couple of times. I don't see it. So it's either been taken off there for obvious reasons or it was never part of it. I don't know. We have to verify that somehow.
Well, it was on the site. Otherwise, it'd be insane.
On the what we believe section, and they have the nuclear family thing. Remember, you talked about we reject the Western prescribed nuclear family. It feels like the message has been co-opted a little bit. You know what I mean? Like almost like when you propose a bill in Congress and there's a lot of pork on it, like things that have nothing to do with it or things that are tangential related at best.
Well, that's the thing. So it's called Black Lives Matters. It's about brutal cops. But then there's a bunch of tangential stuff on the thing as well, like Brian said, like pork on the bill. And so now people are adding black lives not shot by cops onto the mix, which it's a pretty easy math to do for most people. And that's where the pushback is coming. Either way, you got to stay on point, people. Otherwise, you're going to get Terry Crews pissed off. Sorry.
Nobody wants that.
Yes.
Mary Kay Letourneau. Rest in peace. She was the former school teacher who made headlines in 1997 when she was convicted of having sex with a 12-year-old student whom she eventually married. She died of cancer on Tuesday. She was 58. Letourneau was 34 and married with 4 kids when she started a sexual relationship with 6th grade student Vili Falau. The relationship continued while she spent 7 years in prison. They got married. They had kids. She was released. They had 2 kids together, I think 2 daughters. They divorced eventually in 2019. And Letourneau said she turned to Vili when she was having trouble in her first marriage. And remember, the cottage industry that blew up around this story, Only One Crime, Love. That book came out. The USA Network did All American Girl. There was, countless movies of the week about this.
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, 12 years old. God, I mean, I think when you think about it, you go, oh, that guy was 15 or whatever. 12.
12. That's a middle.
What if I was like, but Adam, Sonny understands me.
Yeah. He was a very mature 14-year-old, Gina.
Yeah.
He listens.
There's something about the way he plays video games and eats Hot Pockets that drives a woman wild.
There goes a real man.
The way he unvelcros his shoes.
Yeah.
The way he always puts safety first.
I believe he's the kind of man who eventually will be able to ride a Papa Wheelie on a Schwinn. Of course, we're not there
the way
yet.
He etches that sketch.
Yes. It's insane.
Yeah.
But then she got out of prison and got back with him, and then they had kids. I mean, I don't know.
The kids, the father and the children are virtually the same age. Like they're only a few years younger than he is.
It's a complicated story, but she did a horrible crime. She served the time. And then upon release, I don't know, does it change the details or the nuance of the story that they got married and had kids?
And wasn't the separation or the divorce some sort of a loophole? It's not like they fell out of love. It was some sort of a, like when that aunt sued her nephew for hugging him too hard. It was right. I think that had something to do with it.
Well,
so if it's true love, it's true love, and rest in peace.
Well, you can always you can find your answers. I say all the time by doing an extreme version, a big pendulum swing in both possible hypothetical scenarios. So I've always said, if you want to know why sports cars look cooler with big fat back tires and thinner front tires, and you want to prove that point, then you go, all right, well, make a sports car with thinner, skinnier back tires and big, wide front tires. And you go, oh, that would look weird. And you go, okay, there's your point. Yeah. Now you know why it looks better. Now you know it definitively looks better with wider tires in the back. So if you want to know the story, like when Brian was saying, like, well, is it better that she served the time and then they got married and stuff like that? All you have to do is you go extreme. You go, okay, what if it was a story about her just having sex one time with a 12-year-old, and you go, oh, that makes her a witch. I mean, that just makes her a victimizer. I mean, essentially a rapist at that point, right? So then you go, all right, well, what if she did time and then they got married and then they had kids and all that kind of stuff? You go, it's a different version of that. And that's how you can kind of find the truth. And it can still be bad. It's just better than, well, they went camping one time. She was supposed to be looking after the kids, and they had sex near a log. Don Lemon, Black People, Clean Up Your Act from 2013. So says, what was that story?
So he revived a segment called No Talking Points, and he gave 5 ways to fix the Black community. And we'll play you a little bit of it. We'll just start it at his number 1 point.
Get it.
And number 1, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should, especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues. So please, Black folks, as I said, if this doesn't apply to you, I'm not talking to you. Pay attention to and think about what has been presented in recent history as acceptable behavior. Pay close attention to the hip-hop and rap culture that many of you embrace, a culture that glorifies everything I just mentioned, thug and reprehensible behavior, a culture that is making a lot of people rich, just not you. And it's not going to. That said, though, the political right is not off the hook.
All right. Well, that's a different Don Lemon. Let's do one more Gina Grad, because we got Danny Trejo waiting.
You got it. Well, we've been talking about a lot of Karens, but nary a Kevin until now. At least that's what I'm calling them. I don't know if you've seen this video, but a Florida man was caught screaming at an elderly woman inside a Costco store after she confronted him about not wearing a mask. Always happens to Costco. I don't know why. The altercation happened on June 27th at a store at Gulf Coast Town Center. The person who recorded the video said the man was getting aggressive towards an elderly lady after she asked him why he wasn't wearing a mask inside the store, and then went after the man who defended her. Here's the clip of him.
Here's what we're dealing with. I'm starting to realize, like, I'm just going to buy everything from Barney's of New York. Like, I'm going to buy chamois and food and cheese and beach towels. I'm just going there. It's a little more expensive, but you're not going to have to deal with this element. You know what I'm saying? Because
it's like your Southwest and bus element.
Yeah, Costco, first off, says we got free food. We got free samples. So you're already attracting a group of people who like grazing for free. You know what I mean? Then you have other people that are like, you want me to pay $13 for 87 pairs of tube socks? That's outrageous. I need to go someplace.
Highway robbery.
I'm not paying a dime over $10 for the 87 pair of tube socks. So between that group and is that quiche? Could I have another? You're dealing with a group that you get a little white trash coursing through those veins, and they're eager for the fray. And different group.
Speaking of that,
than Barney's in New York. Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's true. Now, when you see the video, please mind the T-shirt as well.
What's it say?
You're 6 feet away from you.
You're harassing me.
I'm not harassing you. You are infecting us.
Running the world since 1776.
Wow. Wow.
Threaten me again!
Easy, buddy.
He's menacing, that guy.
Back the fuck up, put your fucking phone down!
He's coming after him.
Yeah.
Hey, you think he left the house thinking he might start a fight, or this just happened because an old lady asked him why he wasn't wearing a mask?
And to be
in that T-shirt.
I don't think we were running the world for the first 25, 50 years.
Yeah, it's true. Also, notice a lot of people really aggressive and they're wearing flip-flops, and that's not a good fighting shoe. You know what I mean? Like, I've never seen a guy.
Unless you're gonna throw it.
I've seen a lot of guys spar in the boxing ring, and I've seen guys wearing running shoes and basketball shoes. I've never seen a guy spar in flip-flops. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's good. It's not good for that front toe pivot or pushing off the ball, the back foot, whatever the technique you're using to fight. Flip-flops are not going to help. Yes, Brian.
Unless you're such a badass that you just want to get to barefoot as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
That
true.
That could be it. Yeah, people have lost it. There's a decorum thing that's out the window. There's also kind of an interesting thing, which is on one of my nightly talks with Dr. Drew after dropping the deuce in the woods. I was talking about kind of getting back to work, and you can get back to work after a 3-day weekend or a 10-day summer vacation, but I think a lot of people after 4 months, I said to Drew, I feel like a lot of people are like an elderly person that was in good shape, but they slipped and broke their hip in the tub. And it's like, when are they coming back? It's like, I don't know if they're ever coming back. Like, for some people, 4 months of nothingness or whatever they're doing now, the no routine, I think it wreaked havoc, sort of played havoc with their brain, but also there's going to be a certain percentage of our society that just doesn't come back. Like the old person that slipped in the bathtub. Like, no, they're down. They're not.
That's
you mean does it like reintegrate into society?
Yeah, like it's just having a hard time picking up the job and the schedule and getting back to it. You know what I mean? I think we can all feel it a little bit. Like when you're at home for 2 months and you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to get out of my sweatpants. Good element of that.
Pretty comfy this way.
Christy's work did an internal survey, like who's ready and willing to go back to the office. Not just work because they're all still working, but go back into the office for a day to day. I think out of a few hundred people, 2 said they were ready to go back into the office. Now, of course, there's mitigating circumstances. It's a high rise and it's blah, blah, blah. A lot of people squished together and everything.
People are just used to it now.
Yeah, now that people are realizing. I think, Adam, you alluded to it. It was like, we can do that. We can be very effective from our remote offices.
And would you like me to work an extra 2 hours or commute an extra 2 hours? Yeah. There's upsides for both. But if we can please, I just feel like it needs to be said because I don't know if you guys spend as much time on social media as I do. Brian probably does. But when you hear that it's only the left that's going insane or it's only the right that's going insane, we have "This is America, get that fucking camera out of my face, fuck you, this is my constitution," and we have a woman screaming at a man who dared to put her friend's black baby on his lap. Yeah. So it's equal opportunity insanity.
It manifests itself in different ways, but it's equal.
Well put. All right. Last but not least, Simply Safe. No one should feel unsafe at home like that poor teacher did. So, Simply Safe's been a sponsor for a long time, and they're on a mission, man, from day one to protect your home. Go to simplysafe.com/Adam. Our outro with the news.
Gina. That was the news with Gina Grad.